Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about Ebony Maw's new uniform, because when it came out, a lot of people were extremely excited because of the uniform passive, because of the changes to the character's skill effects and the damage numbers, but a lot of it was untested, and people still are unsure about exactly what the limits and the potential of this uniform are. So I'm here to describe it all to you, and starting with the changes from the base uniform and the iframes. So without his uniform, Ebony Maw is a decent character because he can chain iframe. He basically has a very long iframe on his 4th skill, and he's got a shorter iframe on his 5th skill, and you can almost bounce back and forth between the two of them when you have kind of normal or low attack speed and maximum skill cooldown. And then he also has the clones that he summons with his 3rd skill, and they will take aggro for you, which means that they will attract the boss to you. You won't have to get hit. You can kind of run away and allow your summons, the dark reinforcements, to act as the shields for you. His 1st skill and his 2nd skill are not really much to mention. There's a slight iframe, and he moves kind of around the screen in sort of a semicircle or kind of a semi-lunar shape. That's his old uniform. Basically, there's 8 seconds of iframe on that uniform, and it's very heavily concentrated on his 4th and 5th skill. He has about 5.5 seconds iframe on his 4th skill, that shadow attack, and he's got about 2 seconds and change on Dark Meteor, and then very slight iframes on 1 and 2. With this uniform, they spread his iframes out a little bit, and there's less of a concentration on one particular skill, but there's still 8 seconds of iframe. So don't believe people that tell you there's fewer iframes on this kind of uniform. The difference with Ebony's new uniform is that his clones shadow attack are now on his 4th skill instead of his 3rd skill, and they do not take aggro. So that is why you might feel as though Ebony is weaker, or he takes damage faster, because you don't have any protection, you don't have anything to take attention away from you. But you still have 2.5 seconds of iframe on his 4th skill, you have 2 seconds on his 3rd skill, you have about 1 or half a second on his 1st skill, and then you have about 4, almost 5 seconds on his 5th skill. So there's a long iframe on his 5th skill now, but you can still cancel his 5th skill as soon as he goes into the animation, as soon as he disappears from the screen, and all the meteors will rain down. I'm going to show you some of this in some gameplay, but I wanted to just explain the changes for you so you can fully grasp how much more powerful this character is. So he has skill canceling with the full effect happening on his 4th and 5th skills. He also has skill damage on his 2nd skill with canceling. His 1st skill doesn't, or sorry, his 1st skill does, his 2nd skill doesn't. You have to hold the 2nd skill to get that charge effect. And then his 3rd skill is quite interesting. You can cancel it, but you have to be careful. It's not an instant cancel, and this will give you 10 seconds of mind control. Now, this mind control is exactly the same as Emma Frost's. It's exactly the same as Scarlet Witch's new mind control on her 4th skill, Power of Chaos, and it basically acts as a little purple icon that has a little puppet image on it, and the enemy just doesn't move. It's the same as Time Freeze, it's the same as a couple of other effects. It's kind of like a fear effect, except the enemy doesn't run around. They just stay kind of looking around for something. And if they had other enemies to attack, I assume they would attack them. It's kind of like a charm ability, like Luna Snow's as well. And this is a very powerful skill, and it also works on world bosses and world boss ultimates, so it's extremely strong. And for this reason, you want to get maximum skill cooldown on Ebony, because if you notice, mind control is 10 seconds, this skill is on an 18-second cooldown. If you get 50%, that drops down to 9 seconds. That means against most world bosses and world boss ultimates, you can have the boss never attack. You can complete the entire stage with Ebony Maw, and the boss will never attack you. That's right, you can. It's easy mode. It's basically Enchantress Part 2 for Ebony Maw. Additionally, his new uniform does have a lot of more AoE. It has a lot more damage. A lot of the problems with his old uniform is that his 5th skill was his only good skill. His 4th didn't do enough damage. The clones didn't do enough damage. Now a lot of Ebony's skills deal more damage. He's got a lot more AoE as well, area of effect, on his 1st skill, on his 3rd, on his 4th, and on his 5th. So now I want to take you into a little bit of gameplay so I can show off the difference from the new uniform compared to his regular look. I'm first going to take you into a fight against Corvus. Now this is going to be the main fight, and you're going to see just how powerful Ebony is against Corvus. So we're going to go for stage 19. I was practicing a little bit with this team. Valkyrie for the buffs. They do work this time around because he doesn't have to be a hero. His own buffs, and then it also stacks on Cyclops' passive effect with his new uniform to give the team energy attack. And we're going to go with 4 dodge ignore and anti-venom. And basically, I'm just going to press the third skill, and Corvus is not going to move. And then I'm going to press another skill, and then as soon as the third skill is off cooldown, I'm going to press it again. And Corvus is basically going to just do my bidding. And I bid Corvus to not do anything. So here we go. You can see at the top there's that purple skill, Dominance of Spirit. That is the skill, and now Corvus just doesn't do anything. And as soon as it's off cooldown, I'm going to press it again. It's going to hit him again, and then I'm free to do any other skill that I want. Of course, the environment is still going to happen around me. There are still triggerable effects for the fight that happen regardless of what Corvus is doing, but this is actually hilarious to me, and this basically trivializes the fight. Corvus is going to run to the middle, but because he can't move, he can't do any skills. It's not going to trigger the purple spears. It's not going to trigger any of the fireballs or any of the frustrating portions of this fight. You can basically skip this entire fight as long as you have enough cooldown and you have enough damage for Corvus to actually kill Ebony, or sorry, for Ebony to kill Corvus in 5 minutes. But as long as you have the cooldown and the damage, there's nothing Corvus can do. As far as canceling the 4th skill, the 5th skill, you can actually just move on your joystick and it will cancel the 5th skill. As soon as Ebony disappears, that's when you can cancel the 5th skill. So right as he disappears now, I can cancel it and I'll still get all of those meteors. As far as his 4th skill, you can cancel it pretty soon after. For the 3rd skill, you have to wait until you see that giant kind of ghost appear and kind of slap the enemy on the head. If you try to cancel the 3rd skill too quickly, it won't summon the giant ghost, and then the enemy won't get that effect, the mind dominance effect for 10 seconds. So hesitate a little bit on the 3rd skill cancel, otherwise you'll miss the effect. If the cooldown is right here, we're gonna have to wait a little bit. Corvus is gonna get 1 attack off. That's all you get, buddy. Did you hit me? No? Alright. Well, that's the end. That's all you get. You got 1 chance to kill me. You failed, you messed it up, and now I'm just gonna keep mind controlling you until the end of this fight. And this is basically exactly what Ebony does to a lot of his victims. If you've read the comics, if you watched Infinity War, it's kind of what he did to Doctor Strange. Not exactly, but it's exactly what he did in the comics version of Thanos' invasion of Earth when he was looking for his son Thane. A very cool issue, I do recommend. So now Corvus is up there, but we can just mind dominance him again, and he just stands there like a good little servant of the Maw. And this is really hilarious, and this is kind of where his power comes in. Now, of course, this is a PvE skill. This is not something that's going to be as effective in PvP, and part of the reason why it's not effective in PvP is because characters like Jean Grey or Angel will have a debuff leadership, or even Odin, and that will, you know, remove Ebony's effect, you know, for the first 20 seconds that he casts it. Also, Wasp's tier 2 ability also negates that. Additionally, even for characters that don't have those debuff leaderships, there is a lot of reduction in crowd control time from either other leaderships, like for example Wolverine's debuff reduction leadership 36%, or from comic book cards. I'm not actually going to finish this stage. I just wanted to show you how ridiculously easy it is. I probably should have saved this one to the end in hindsight, but the other thing I wanted to show you was that it's not perfect. And this is where people might get confused. I went ahead and I tested this against other World Boss Ultimates just because I was curious. We're going to take this exact same strategy into Cull Obsidian Ultimate World Boss Stage 4. We're not even going to use Strikers this time around because we don't need them. And you're going to see the difference here. For some reason, Cull Obsidian, and I'm going to spoil it, he has a 50%, roughly 50% reduction in crowd control time. So I don't know if this applies to Time Freeze. It doesn't appear to apply for Scarlet Witch's mind control. It seems like her mind control lasts about 8, 9, or 10 seconds. But for some reason, Ebony's doesn't last 10 seconds. And you saw it against Corvus just now, but if I use it against Cull Obsidian, you'll see it happens. It triggers, it definitely triggers, but it disappears after about 5 or 6 seconds. It's definitely not 10 seconds, and it definitely doesn't allow you to do that kind of cheesy rotation that I was doing. Now, you can still definitely do 3, 1, 2, and then as soon as it's over, you can do 4 for the long iframe, and then 5 for the long iframe, and that should give you enough protection to just do 3 again. That's definitely a possibility. If the character moves around too much when you're doing the third skill, the mind control effect can miss. So try to get the character when they're not kind of doing a skill, because then, for example, like that, if they hit you, if they guard break you or something like that, it totally interrupts. You do need a little bit of peace and silence and kind of steadiness to cast his skill, but you can see his damage is very, very good. This is at stage 4 with a relatively simple build. I think I'm rank 2000 with Ebony Maw, so it definitely gets a lot more powerful. But for whatever reason, Cull Obsidian has a lot more of a reduction and a kind of resistance to these mind control abilities, and so for that reason you'll need to employ some other tactics along with the third skill, but it's definitely extremely powerful. It also works 100% of the time against Proxima Midnight, but unfortunately Ebony Maw does very little damage to Proxima, so it doesn't really matter, because you won't be able to clear high level stages with Ebony against her. You could probably clear stage 1 or stage 2, but the real fun is had against high level Corvus, where you can just completely cheese the stage no matter what, and also of course against Black Dwarf for half the time, and then you just have to incorporate some iframes to cover up the extra time. So that is the review, and that is the kind of breakdown of Ebony Maw's new uniform. Great damage, insane crowd control, but mostly a PvE character, mostly for Shadowland, World Boss Ultimate, and those kinds of game modes. I'm still kind of unsure as to whether or not Ebony Maw's uniform passive applies to Extreme Alliance Battle. I've heard some people saying yes, I've heard some people saying no, and I haven't been able to come to a kind of concrete conclusion. So if you have more data than I do, if you have a definitive answer on that, especially for Universal Villain Day, I would like to know. Let me know what your thoughts are on the new and improved kind of Enchantress cheese for World Boss Ultimate and the new powers of Ebony Maw's uniform, if you didn't know that this was how it worked. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. Hit the bell if you don't want to miss any of my content. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.